Did y'all start? I can't hear anything.
As always, I love talking to myself. Sorry about that. So we're going to work on troubleshooting mobile devices, and that could be anything from laptops to tablets, phones, anything of that nature, and try to identify common issues that you will come across with these particular devices, how we would resolve them, and get through that process of the most common issues. As with any troubleshooting process, two things you always want to keep in mind and always try to have would be, one, persistence. You always want to continue to pursue a problem, continue to try to solve it, keep after it, even if you have to hand off that problem, say for time's sake, or you've had to escalate it because it might have been outside your skill set. It's still good to follow up behind that with the people that you've handed it off to figure out what did they do to actually solve that problem. So the next time you come across that problem, you will have a better understanding of how to solve it. So be persistent, even if you've had to hand off this problem. Don't give up on the problem, as a lot of times it may be the next solution you come to, maybe the one that fixes the actual problem you're addressing. And the other thing is adaptability. Try new things, try different things. Once you've exhausted your, local knowledge, the knowledge you have yourself, the knowledge base that you have with the company, then you go to outside sources like web searches, Google, YouTube, stuff like that, and also your coworkers, and you've done the escalation. You, again, want to follow up, figure out how these problems were solved, and then add that to your toolbox. As a IT specialist, we're as good as the toolbox we have, and every problem we learn how to solve is another tool in that toolbox. Any questions so far? All right. The list of common problems we're going to be going over today that you will come across out in the field, and best ways to handle them. Display issues, can't reach exterior monitors. Sticking keys is a real common one, especially in mobile devices, because you have employees taking computers home with them, and they may not necessarily be as careful at home as they are at the office. No internet connectivity, ghost cursor, power, numlock, Bluetooth connectivity, touchscreen issues, and a whole variety, as you can see. And we will get into each of these. All right. Display issues. Let's see here. Kimberly, can you please read for us?
The display issue the device display uses backlighting to power the LCD screen and is powered through the inverter. The three main display issues and their solutions are: no display. Check the inverter first before checking the backlighting, since the inverter is cheaper to replace. Dim display can be caused by the backlight or inverter going out, but first check to see if screen brightness has been accidentally turned down, FN button has been turned down, laptop lid button has become obstructed and the computer thinks the lid is up or down. Flickering. First, check the cable to make sure it is not loose. However, this issue is usually a drive issue that can be resolved by updating the graphics card. Another issue might be the screen refresh rate is too low, so increasing the rate would resolve this.
Excellent, thank you. Does anybody remember what the common indicator would be for an inverter starting to go bad in a screen? It was mentioned when we were doing display devices, probably last week or the week before. Does anybody remember what would immediately give you an indicator that the inverter was going bad.
Is it your screen turns black or something like that?
Well, that would be the result of it going bad. I'm saying it's an early indicator that it's starting to happen.
The screen starts to flicker then?
No, because that could be refresh rate, could be a couple things.
Bzz, bzz.
All right, I'm gonna stop making sound, right?
There we go. It's the hissing sound.
Sounds
Yeah,
dangerous.
when you start hearing it, yep. Plasma's on it. And when you start to hear a hissing sound coming from the monitor and you start to have display issues, that would be something that would immediately point you to the inverter going bad versus say the backlight going bad and the flickering being your refresh rate or needing to upgrade the drivers within your graphics card. Any questions on display issues? All right, cannot display to external monitor. Alvarez, can you please help out?
All right, number 2, cannot display to external monitor. Even though the hardware is connected to a mobile device, it does not necessarily mean it will be compatible. Number 1, check compatibility. First, check the documentation of the 2 devices to be sure they will work when connected. Should be the first step. If compatibility is not the issue, there are a couple of ways to enable an external monitor. 2, check key combination to enable external display. In the Windows documentation and the devices documentation, the key combination to enable the external display should be noted. Usually the function key for this display is enabled either through the key combination required for the mobile device. It is also possible that pressing the Windows button and the P key will bring up the dialog box to choose how the display should appear.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, this is going to be one of the more common ones you'll come across because people will be, especially if you have like traveling salespeople or things like that within your organization, they will get to a place, and if they're relatively new and have not dealt with using external monitors, or they've only used port forwarders or docking stations, and they haven't just manually connected the monitors to it, they may not think to use these function keys and stuff like that. So this is a really good one to remember. Also, being able to walk them through the difference between an extended desktop or a mirrored desktop. Who can tell me the difference between those two?
A mirrored desktop is an exact replica of first screen. An extended one extends the real estate out to both screens.
Excellent, thank you. Or in Lazaro's case, 6 screens. So yeah, this is a really good one, and it has, as Windows is apt to do, the key combinations that they use for this stuff changes from version to version. So you definitely might want to check your documentation real quick just to make sure you're giving them the correct key combo to get to enable the extra monitor. Any questions on this particular one?
I got some good feedback on that one. On a test, they try to trick you with this one. A user comes out of nowhere, tries to put a projector. Oh, this is weird. It's not working. Well, every time I'm trying to look at my laptop, I don't see anything, but I do see my screen over there in the projector. You're going to get that a lot in the exam. Who knows what's going on here?
Use external monitor only.
Projection only, external monitor only. Exactly. You will get that, believe it or not, as a test question. And it happens in the real world. Happened to my old boss many times. Not Diego, different boss.
Absolutely. Yep, I do remember seeing that question. All right, sticking keys. Bezel, can you please read for us?
Okay. Sticky keys. Most issues that may arise with regular keyboards not on mobile devices is that they sit flat on the desktop, leaving them vulnerable to collect dust, dirt, and debris, including spilled liquids. Aside from cleaning the keyboard and mechanical parts wearing out with overuse, which would cause them to be replaced, for mobile devices, the keyboard is built into the device. So when a mobile device keyboard is having issues, there are two solutions. Replace it, attach an external keyboard. Because the cost to replace can be quite expensive, the preferred solution is typically finding an external keyboard that will be equivalent for the convenient for the user to travel with.
Excellent, thank you. They have loads of options for, they have like just straight silicone ones that you can roll up. They have collapsible keyboards that'll fold down to about the size of a mobile phone, and then they'll fold out as you need them. So there's a lot of really great ones for that. The other danger with debris and stuff like that filling up the keyboard of a laptop, so to speak, is outside of the venting holes in the bottom of the laptop, the keyboard is also where the laptop's ventilation is coming from. So if you have a ton of debris going on in there, that's also going to be limiting the airflow on the internal case of the actual laptop. So there is an extra danger there when you're dealing with mobile devices. Any questions on this one? So if it doesn't work, first try to clean it out. Cleaning out doesn't work, bring in an external keyboard, see if that helps. If that does help and you're unable to fix the internal can either be replaced, which is highly expensive and time consuming if you're actually doing it yourself, because a lot of times in laptops, the keyboard is the last thing you get to. You literally have to flip it over and remove everything to get to the actual keyboard, and then you can remove the keyboard and then put everything back together. So it is very time consuming as well as expensive. All right, intermittent or no wireless? David, can you please assist with this one, sir?
Intermittent wireless. Most wireless problems are the result of interference caused by other signals and devices coming between the access point and the device. Solutions include limit the number of devices requiring a signal or directly connect when possible. Check the wireless antenna in the laptop's lid to be sure it is seated correctly. No wireless. One of two things is happening with no wireless connectivity. Either one, the wireless has been disabled, or two, the antenna is not functioning. Solutions include first, check to be sure the wireless button is on. The wireless button is located on the keyboard, usually on the FN button. Then open the lid, locate the antenna wire behind the monitor, and check to be sure it is connected.
Excellent, thank you. I mean, if you do have limited or if you have intermittent wireless connectivity, you're operating off of a laptop, you can affect the number of people who are connected to this particular wireless access point. What would be one way you could improve your internet quality?
Move closer to the access point.
Excellent, Alvarez. That's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, you want to get closer to it so you have a stronger signal. If that is an option, like if you're in an open office environment and you're able to move desks, if you're a guest in that particular office, that would be one way to gain access or get better quality access to wireless services. Yeah, no wireless, especially if the person has traveled. A lot of times when they go on a laptop or they take their laptops on the airplanes, they're setting it to airplane mode. And then when they get off and they get where they're going, they usually forget to turn it off. And then when they go and they try to connect to the internet, they can't figure out exactly why they're unable to connect to the internet. And it's something as simple as airplane mode has been turned on. Happens with cell phones, laptops, all that fun stuff, whenever people travel, especially. Getting to the antenna behind the monitor can be a challenge. One of the things that is often brought up is you have to be extremely careful when removing the outer bezel of the laptop because it is extremely fragile and easy to break and has a high probability of happening every time you open up the case, and then the wiring runs essentially just underneath that bevel right around the screen. And if that's all intact, then you would actually lift up, go into it from behind and make sure that the antenna is actually still connected internally as well.
Kelly, I have an older piece laptop, and I'm trying to see if I can get it to show. Right here is the little slide that you turn your wireless on and off with. And like Kelly said, and like the literature said, they stopped putting it right here because they're so easy to turn it on and off. And they're making it so you have to actually open it up and FN key it to turn it on and off, because they realize, although this is very useful at times to use to turn on and off, look how easy it is to just maybe not even pay attention. It's amber as opposed to blue. And that's one of the reasons why it's not working. I eventually just put something over it, and I even got an external little dongle here for it to help because it was such a issue at times. So that's something to keep in mind. It was originally on the actual physical casing of the notebooks at times, but now they move it to a function key or option within the function key.
That is correct. Thank you. Any questions on wireless connectivity? All right. As we had talked about earlier with most troubleshooting tends to be operator error. And then you'll run into software and then finally hardware as far as most common to least common. So when we are troubleshooting, we do have to be delicate with that. All right. Ghost cursor and pointer drift. Let's see here. Ronald, can you please assist?
All right, ghost cursor, pointer drift. Ghost cursor. Seeing double cursors, ghost cursor can be caused by a faulty trackpad that may be overheated. Set the laptop to hibernate or sleep when the lid closes. This may prevent the ghost cursor, since most devices vent through the keyboard and will lock in heat if the lid is closed. Update the drivers of the trackpad. If either of those solutions do not work, disable the touchpad altogether and use an external mouse as a last resort. Pointer drift. The cursor is slowly drifting across the screen on its own. And then change the settings in the display properties if the multiple monitors are being used. Otherwise, it could be a software issue or user issue, since the trackpad is sensitive and could be picking up on a hand or debris close to the pad.
Excellent, thank you. So, I mean, essentially you would recalibrate, if you're seeing pointer drift and it has to do with the trackpad. The other thing most laptops have is the pointer stick. That's like usually in between the G and H keys on the keyboard. They can utilize those if the trackpad is not working. And I know a lot of people tend to not like using the trackpad, so they just disable it anyway because they will rest their palms on the where the trackpad is while they're typing, and it causes the cursor to jump all over the place. I know Diego had, adamantly stated that this was poor typing techniques, but not many people actually have proper typing techniques. So it is an extremely common thing to happen. The other thing with the laptops not being set to hibernate or sleep when the lid closes, this is a big one because you will kill computers. I had a coworker killed 3 laptops in 8 months because he would just slap it closed, grab it, throw it in the bag, and walk out. And then he would get home, open it up, and start working again. Well, you know, so he's taking a laptop, it's already hot, slamming it closed, it's not going to sleep, grabbing it, throwing it into an insulated bag, and then taking it home, and the thing's basically just cooking all the way home because it's still running. And gets home, and he fried 3 motherboards in less than 8 months. So this is a big one. If you catch this happening, like if you're, you know, working in IT, but it's an open office environment, you hear people come in and they just pulled their laptops out and center, like, oh, wow, that's really hot. Might want to step over there and say, hey, do you mind if I adjust the settings on there to set it so that it will sleep or hibernate when you do close it? That way we're not damaging the equipment. So that's another one to just kind of keep your ear out for. Any questions or comments on this one?
All I'm saying is I didn't do that. I just put in a hot car instead.
That'll do it too. Especially in Florida and more so in Miami, I would imagine.
He was just trying to keep it warm.
Yeah, keep my butter warm too. With butter. Yeah, warm butter on butter.
There you go. All right. Any questions, comments on Ghost servers or pointer drift? All right. Moving along. No power. All right. Joseph, can you please assist?
Sure, let me just let the computer has to update so I can see the screen. It's taking a second. There it goes. No power. Devices run on battery power when there is no AC power running between the outlet and the computer. Is the device plugged in or is it running on battery power? First, check if there is power coming from the wall outlet. Next, check the power adapter lights on the adapter and the device. If no lights appear on the adapter, it may be faulty. If no lights appear on the device, it could be the power port. The power cord can be dislodged from the unit, so make sure everything is firmly connected. Before replacing the adapter, try plugging it into another outlet and then try using it in another device.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, more often than not, you'll find cables will be the source of problems to no end. And it's the cleaning crew conundrum. You know, when they come in, they're wiping everything down, they're bumping things, and it just tends to happen. You know, they're running the vacuum underneath the desk that bumps cords. They may brush up against the wall and nudge the plugs, and all these things tend to happen. So when you're having issues with anything, be it a mouse, a keyboard, whatever, first thing you do, make sure the cables are firmly secured, and especially when you're dealing with power cords and monitor cables, printer cables, Ethernet, they have 2 ends. Check both ends. Make sure both ends are firmly in place. Once you do that, the majority of the problems tend to melt away. Otherwise, you may have a bad cord, you know, or if it's a power plug, make sure you plug it into another outlet. Make sure the outlet's not bad. It does happen. It's rare, but it does occur. Sometimes it may be a blown breaker in the building, and the particular wall outlet you're using is on the breaker for an adjoining suite office on the other side of the wall, and just so happens that that outlet happens to be on that particular one. All right. Any quick comments, questions before we go to a 5-minute break? I'm being informed the ice cream truck has arrived. No? All right. All right, moving along. All right. Kaido, can you please help us out with this one?
Typically, number lock indicator light this on when number lock is not enabled. The number lock key is located above the number pad on the FN keys for devices that do not have a number pad separate from the keyboard.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, this is another common one. Either they can't figure out how to turn that function on, or they can't figure out how to turn that function off. So depending on exactly the situation, you can guide them either to the function keys or the number lock keys. Because sometimes they'll just bump it and then not understand what's happening. All right, Bluetooth connectivity. Camille, can you please help out?
Okay, no Bluetooth connectivity. Bluetooth uses radio waves instead of wires or cables to connect with a device. This technology is called pairing and is a wireless short-range communications technology standard. Bluetooth has a button to enable or disable it, so it is easy to inadvertently turn it off. First, check that Bluetooth is enabled by locating the button, which could be located on the FN button row or the side or back of the device. This doesn't work, replacing the antenna might be the solution.
That is correct. And I believe Marvin showed us something with regards to a Wi-Fi switch on a laptop. They also would have something like that with regards to Bluetooth. If you're not using Bluetooth enabled devices, it's typically good practice to turn off your Bluetooth until you're going to be using something, because that also opens up a gateway into your computer, from them being able to just watch your data to all the way up to basically being able to take control of your device, depending on the type of attack they're implementing. If you have an open Bluetooth, this is possible. The other thing would be also, again, airplane mode. Turning on airplane mode when they go on a trip, and that shuts off all the wireless connectivity for the device. They get to where they're going, forget to turn it back off, and believe that their Bluetooth is not functioning when it's just a simple toggle switch going on and off. And then absolute last resort would be going in and checking the antenna and or replacing it.
But will we really replace that antenna, Kelly? Or will we just go ahead and purchase a $5 Bluetooth dongle and keep the party going?
That you absolutely could do, yes. And a lot of people have gone that road, especially, and that also works for Wi-Fi antennas too. If you don't want to go down that road of replacing the Wi-Fi antenna, you actually can replace, there is a Wi-Fi dongle you can plug in, exterior antenna, and utilize that. They work just fine and minimally intrusive. So that is definitely another option. Thank you for reminding me of that one. All right, any comments, questions on that? All right. Touchscreen issues. Chris, could you please read out for us?
Touchscreen issues. Tablets, smartphones, and other handhelds use touchscreens instead of keyboards using TouchFlow and multi-touch technology. TouchFlow, designed by HTC, this technology allows a finger to drag up, down, and left-right to scroll on the screen. Multi-touch, technology that recognizes multiple simultaneous touches on the screen. This allows for resizing of the screen. If the touchscreen has become non-responsive, first, restart the device. Something could be conflicting the technology. By restarting it, it clears the issue. This solution usually works to clear the issue. Also, check the screen for cracks and to make sure the device has not gotten wet. Some devices have built-in diagnosis tools that can be tried if it is possible to access them.
Excellent, thank you. All right, who can tell me the two different types of touchscreens we have?
Capacitive.
Resistive, and that one.
Capacitive and resistive, very good. What kind is this they're speaking of? What is the most common kind used now?
capacitor, right?
Yes, absolutely. That allows for multi-touch and all that because it is based off of, the electrical connection between your fingertips and the actual screen, where resistive is all about the pressure that is placed on the screen. Very good. So yes, any cracks can interfere with the flow of electricity. Restarting the device tends to be a pretty good way to resolve most issues. And with regards to a resistive touch, the device may require recalibration. So although it is not common that you will come across a resistive touch device, with the exception of point of sale signing, they still use them, like you have the UPS devices they use to sign for packages. When you sign for credit card, your credit card receipts at the store, things like that. But more often than not, it is a capacitive touch. All right, apps not loading. Alimo, can you please help out with this one?
Apps not loading. Apps are available through a purchase at either the website or a store such as Apple Store or Google Play. Even if the app is free, it is still considered a purchase. After the purchase, the app is downloaded to install on the device. Failed download. One problem users may experience is that the app may not load after downloading it. A simple solution is to first check that the program actually downloaded. If it didn't, it may be a downloaded issue, and re-downloading the app might resolve the issue. If the app downloaded but will not install or load, first try to restart the device. If it still won't deploy, uninstall and reinstall the app. Too much data usage. Another issue with app is some use too much data as they run in the background. Restricting this app to only run with Wi-Fi will limit the overuse of data.
Excellent, thank you. Again, as we were talking about earlier, we're doing restarts. That tends to solve most problems. If you have intermittent Wi-Fi issues, that can cause the app to not download properly. And if you're, like, say, if you're coming from the car to the house or something like that, as you walk in, you're swapping from cellular to Wi-Fi, this can cause an interruption in downloads and actually can cause a download failure with regards to apps not being able to load. And sometimes the apps are too large. They won't allow you to download them via cellular. So you actually would need a Wi-Fi connection. Or if you're running over on your data usage, they may not allow it as well. Dyads are what the mobile devices for UPS called. Thank you, Joseph, for pointing that out. I do appreciate it. Any question on apps? Not loading? Typically, if it doesn't work, you delete the app, reload it, and a lot of times that will fix the problem. So. All right. Slow performance. Jose, can you please help out with this one?
A slow performance. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Slow performance. Because my internet connectivity here is bad. When performance slows over time, system performance can be increased by freeing up RAM space, by deleting apps and programs no longer being used. Solutions for laptops: check the mobile device for virus or malware programs that have slowed the system. Try defragging the system as well as using disk cleanup. Check the system for possibly upgrading the RAM or hard drive. Update the system. Use msconfig to disable programs that are starting when the device powers on. Solutions for smartphones: stop background apps that have been using too much system resources. Be sure to upgrade programs, turn off background services that always run, including Google Services, Maps, and Drive.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. You know, first thing, check to see if anything's running in the background, then you run your virus and malware. One of the things you may run across is sometimes people think that if one antivirus or anti-malware program on your computer is good, two must definitely be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one doesn't see.
You what?
One can find malware the other one doesn't see.
But there's a bigger problem. They may view each other as malware. They may fight each other. So if you have active malware protection going on from two different sources, they literally will be fighting for resources. I actually have that actively going on in a computer that I was trying to fix a little bit ago, where essentially like 99% of all the available memory was being used up within seconds of me turning on the computer, because they had two malwares running in the background, essentially competing for resources. So looking to see what exactly starts up in the beginning when you fire up the computer and what's running in the background are really good ways to, you know, see what's chewing up your resources, because you may have something on there that shouldn't be running and absolutely is, or you may stumble across the scenario I was just talking about where you see two different malwares operating at the same time. You got anything to add, Les?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of experience with that. Even if they are so-called compatible, for example, Caspberry with Malabytes, apparently they say they're very compatible with each other, and I run them for years, but an update happened with Malabytes that all of a sudden stopped making it work. And another problem that I noticed, that when one of my antivirus programs were scanning, the other one was slowing it down because I thought it was a virus, even though they're compatible. Even though they weren't killing each other, they were basically interrupting. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just doing this. Oh, okay. It wastes resources, as unfortunate it does. And even if they were compatible and they don't fight with each other, you have to remember they're both accessing your disk drive or your SSD. So if they're both all of a sudden scanning, even if you schedule them at different times, there's a possibility that they're both trying to look at the same folder, and you can crash your operating system if it doesn't know how to handle it, which happened to me many times. And I was always wondering, why is my program crashing? Especially when I run a video game. If I run a video game and it thinks it's a virus, and they both think it's a virus, they both just nuke the operating system, Windows specifically.
All right. Freezing.
I got a quick question, Kelly. So,
go for it, Albert.
Say you got a solid state drive. It would be a bad idea to defrag that, right?
You do not defrag solid state drives.
You do trimming. Different thing. It's not really necessary, in my opinion, but you can do that. It's very similar to defrag.
But if you actually try to run a defrag program on a solid state drive, you can damage it.
I mean, you're gonna shorten the lifespan of it, but not really gonna. Well, I guess that is damaging it. Not by much though. It's not really that noticeable until you keep doing.
I guess Kelly is just saying that it's not. The reason we defrag the mechanical ones because of the way that it's set, the way it's set up. Although like Laz is saying, there is a process of rearranging. Defrag is not the one that we would ideally want you to suggest, Albert. You got to go through that other route.
All right. All right, freezing. Luqman, are you able to read or are you not? Okay. All right, I guess back to Kimberly. Can you please help out?
A frozen system can occur for many of the same reasons mentioned in the topic of slow performance. Oh. Oh, the screen.
It's on
Hey,
Google.
you're on Google now. I don't think she remembered that whole slide.
Marvin, you jumped off the screen, man.
How y'all know it was me?
Okay.
Y'all just assuming it was me.
Because he called you out, man.
If the device is completely frozen and unresponsive, do a hard boot of the system. Completely shut down by holding the power button until it shuts off. After the reboot, clear the app's memory cache and clear the temporary files. If the device froze while texting, enable airplane mode, then disable it. This can force the device to reestablish the connection.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, oftentimes when you get to a hard freeze on a system, the only thing you can do is a reboot. Hopefully, it'll allow it to register from soft power where you press the button on the front of the device and it will allow the gentle shutdown. Otherwise, you have to remove power from the device, and that is a lot harder on the system. Any questions with regards to this? All right. Unable to decrypt email. David, could you please assist with this one?
Viewing emails through a browser on a mobile device can be challenging because at times the mobile version of the browser cannot locate the certificate and corresponding key required to decrypt the message. Assuming the system is kept up to date with the updates, solutions can include only view email in the app from the email provider, such as Google Mail or Yahoo. Use a smart card with the key that is needed to decrypt, or make sure SMIME is enabled on the device is checked.
Excellent, thank you. One second. Marvin, can you take over real quick?
I'm on it, sir. While
Thank
I
you,
haven't
appreciate
had
it.
any issues with decrypting email, I can't say I even had a question in a real world situation. I can see this being an issue, and knowing how to address it can be beneficial. So there will be some processes that you'll have at your, you may even have the person that sent the email send it again. I mean, it could be as simple as that to address it on the fly, but they will probably have some processes that allow you to get to that smart card if you need to for decryption. Let's see here. Ronald, I'm going to get this one to you, sir.
Overheating. Overheating issues can arise if the mobile device vents are being blocked, if the system is being overly taxed by excessive gaming, or if the device is being used while it's charging. Solutions to prevent overheating include: never put a laptop on a bed or other soft surfaces that may block the vent. Try to keep the device elevated while sitting on a flat, hard surface to help venting underneath. Keep the vents free of debris and dust by using a specialized vacuum. And reduce the device's use while charging cycle is being performed.
Thank you, sir. Anyone knew that while gaming and having it charged can cause overheating. I just feel like anytime you're running something that's graphic intensive or processor intensive, you can be sure to know that your PC may warm up, and you want to address that as it comes. Do anybody remember the cooling pads that was big to be purchased to put up under your PC to keep it cool if you had it on your lap, or just keep it cool? Anybody remember those purchases back in the day? Had like it's like a thin little notepad with like fans that drew the heat away from the notebooks. They were really big at one point in time because notebooks would get really hot. Like that was one of the drawbacks of having a notebook. If you sat it on your lap long enough, it'll burn your lap. So they came out with these cooling pads that were USB powered, help try to keep it cool. But we just gave you some things, and some of this is kind of common practice now, but just don't want to sit it on carpeted or a bed or something. Like, try to make sure you have a way to increase airflow. Even just being on a hard surface can really help keep it cool to an extent. So almost common knowledge, but let's speak on it so you know. Specialized vacuum, hey, I vacuum. Just if you're in an area that's prone to dust, try to keep the dust down. Just FYI on that. I didn't ask anybody have any questions. Anybody had questions on that one? I don't think you do. Perez, you off mute, so go ahead and speak on this one for me.
No sound from speakers. If the speakers are not producing sound, first, make sure the volume is turned up. After making sure of this, check the device's settings to be sure sound is enabled. Check sound on other apps to be sure it is not a specific app issue. Restart the device to clear any conflicts that may be happening. Check updates for the sound card or integrated sound. Last, after backing up the device, attempt a system reset to restore to factory settings.
I don't know if you caught that little tips for troubleshooting, backing up the device before you do a reset or a restore. Just throw that in there. Have anyone had any personal issues with sound not working?
Yeah, in this class I have.
Okay,
Because
how did you address it, Joseph?
After doing a bunch of stupid stuff, I hit the FM button, went to my keyboard, and hit F1 to unmute the sound.
Oh man, that's all it was? You just had it muted?
Yep.
Yeah. Especially if we're using some type of Bluetooth device. I have a Bluetooth speaker. It can jump on and off. You would have to play around with it, but you also can go to the device manager if you got that. If you have that exclamation point, there may be an issue with the driver that needs to be addressed. It happens. It doesn't happen a lot, but there are several ways to address it. Maybe a simple restart can do it, but you have several options here that we would want you to know that you have at your disposal when dealing with the no sound from speakers. Also, make sure they're plugged up. I mean, I get it. They were plugged up last time that person used it, but if you're talking to a client or a customer, just go through the process of plug up and power before we even go down this list of checks and balances. So you'll be surprised.
Simple.
GPS not functioning. Let's see here. Chris, if you don't mind, sir.
GPS not functioning. If the location service does not appear to be working even after a restart, then first, make sure the location service, GPS, it is enabled before trying any further solution. Check to ensure the device has either cellular or Wi-Fi connection. Location services doesn't work without one of these two enabled. Be sure the user is not covering the antenna, since this would affect the performance. Also, some windshields have UV protection, which can block signal from the satellite.
I hope you don't have that level of UV protection that you're not able to use your maps. That's intense. But I mean, I guess they just want you to know that that exists, you know, especially with adding like tent or things of that nature. So
If I may
get
say
it.
something as well, certain
Go ahead, Tom.
devices have much better GPSs in them than others. I have a cell phone that unless I'm outside, it just sucks for GPS. If I'm inside at all, worthless.
I wonder, is it having issues with things inside of your home that's affecting its performance, Chris?
It's everywhere.
Okay.
You know, want to know something funny? If it's Boost Mobile, at least for me, Boost Mobile, they're having issues somehow where it conflicts with the GPS. That happens to me. So sometimes, believe it or not, it could be a provider. Very rare. I don't know how that works, but depends on the software they installed on your locked device. So it goes to show when you're troubleshooting, it can be more complicated. Hopefully, you don't have that problem. That's even worse. You can fix it yourself.
And also keep in mind, we talked about this a little while ago. Certain sites request your location services be on, when it's like, why do you need to know? I have a Salvation Army app on my phone because we donate there, and that's a way to keep up with the donations. Why do they want to know about location services being on all the time? Like, is this go through your list and see who's wanting or who's asking for that information and get rid of the ones that don't need it? Because I mean, everybody don't need to know your every step. So just FYI, that exists. But these are some things to look at to try to address that situation. Appreciate it, Chris. Let's see what else we got here. Swollen battery.
That's bad.
Who recall the big blow up explosion battery phenomenon of what was it, like 2 or 3 years ago, somewhere around in there?
Yeah, that was from Samsung.
Galaxy Note 7.
Yep, the Galaxy Note 7. And you know, people still wanted that phone, even though it was prone to this. Like, is
Like
that
me?
not scary? Like, how much Q&A happened or didn't happen to allow this process? But I guess they make millions of phones, so if
Because
1,000 of them,
Lazaro, he still has one.
Lazaro, is that it?
He just got he got scammed on believing that the upgraded on the PR. Actually, I'm not even gonna answer. What would they upgrade supposedly on that phone that made it safe?
Almost said
PRI, PRL. What do they have upgraded? Anyways, he still thinks it's safe. So hopefully it just doesn't blow up in his pockets.
Don't worry, as long as I don't take it to the airplane.
Also, he has that scooter that he leaves plugged in overnight.
Oh, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Laz, if your pocket get warm, man, just address it appropriately.
Don't worry, if I see fire, then I know for sure what's going on.
I'm surprised they didn't ask you to return it, like to give it back. Like, how are you able to even still have it? I think they just had a hazard, right?
Mobile, they had a deal. I was like, "Ooh, I like that." And then later, I was like, "Uh-oh," and then I don't know. I still have the phone. I guess they.
Well, it
don't
didn't
care.
happen to every phone, so I get it, but I know that problem exists. I just wanted to know it was a big thing, and people's phones were being videoed, blowing up, and it was just awful. So the fact that happened is pretty tough. Joseph, I want you to, if you'll read out this one for me, sir, I appreciate it.
Alrighty. Swollen battery. Always use the appropriate power charger. Do not use chargers that are rated for the power of the device, even if the charging plugs are interchangeable. Don't leave the device plugged in all the time. This is particularly an issue for laptop users who primarily use their laptop at home. When the device is plugged in all the time, the battery does not have an opportunity to exercise its capacity. NiCad batteries build up a memory which can prevent a battery from offering a full charge. So fully draining the battery will prevent memory buildup from interfering with fully charging. Keep the device or battery stored in a cool, dry environment. Occasionally use in the sun is fine, but do not store a mobile device or smartphone in a humid environment or in a hot car.
Thank you, sir. I don't think our batteries are using ICAT as much anymore because of that whole memory situation. Maybe
Now it's almost all lithium.
Yeah, all lithium ion now. So to try to get away from that. But the fact that it's good to know that that battery did indeed hold a memory. So you could be causing immature, the life of that battery could be falsely identified. So a lot of this is still kind of knowledgeable, common knowledge, I say, but I still like that it's being expressed. Even with outside of mobile devices, any type of device that has its own charging, it's good to keep it with its own adapter and don't mix and match. I think personally, I caused a Fire Stick to go bad by having it charge on an adapter that wasn't for it. So it can happen. And I don't even think it was overcharging. I think it was undercharging it. And when I pulled it out, now I can't get it to get past the Fire Stick stage. So kind of upset about that one, but it's life. You learn. But that's something that we find ourselves in a lot of situations when you buy at a gas station or something like that. You can't for sure say that these numbers are directly in correlation with what your device is. So just keep that in mind. Try to use the appropriate cables and power adapters.
Yeah, a lot of people just look for something that's going to fit, but you got to actually look at the voltages on there and make sure that it's positive or negative. They got the symbols on the actual plug for you to see and make sure that you're not overcharging it. And one thing I see on here, if a battery swells up, you got to replace it. It's done.
Yeah,
I don't understand why they don't show it on there. That's just rule number one.
I'm glad you said that, Alvarez. You're right. If it swells, it needs to be replaced. It's a ticking time bomb at that point. Even with when we talked about like the transistors on a motherboard, if they swell, it's not something that you keep just dealing with. You need to address that immediately. But you're right. You're totally right on that. Let's see here. Maybe we get it towards here. Alvarez, if you'll read this one for me.
All right. Batteries experiencing short life or not holding a charge. Reasons a battery can be drained include 1, keeping the brightness too high. 2, constantly enabled wireless connections or location services. And 3, constantly enabled background data services. Solutions for keeping the battery from draining quickly include turn off some services, brightness, wireless, location services when not in use. Set the mobile device to airplane mode and manually connect to each service when needed. If airplane mode does not help resolve the issue, the battery life may be at the end. There are a limited number of recharges, so if the battery dies suddenly right after a charge, it may be time to replace. Safety reminder. Use care when handling a charged battery, particularly when placing it inside a pocket, purse, or other container with metal objects. Contact with metal objects could complete an electrical circuit, short circuit, causing the battery to become very hot, which could cause damage or injury.
Thank you, sir. Once again, I think it's just a lot of this is things that we may know, but my brightness is all the way down on my phone to the point where people, if I hand it to somebody, they're like, "Hey man, I can't see this." But I've grown accustomed to seeing it at a lower thing, and everybody know the trick.
Strainer, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you got a big phone with a big screen on it, and you got that brightness up. That's like
killing that
40%
battery.
of your consumption right there.
Yeah, it's killing that battery. Also, the trick is if you want to charge your device quickly, put it on airplane mode because it turns everything off and helps you get that guy charged up quickly. So we all kind of know that as well.
Yeah.
Keep going here. All right, I'm going to read this one. Common mobile device issues. We use the same troubleshooting theory, whether we are troubleshooting desktops or mobile devices. Identify the problem, 1, establish, 2, test that theory, plan and fix and resolve the problem, prevent, verify and prevent, and then document. Like I said, it's good to have some type of troubleshooting methodology. And as you can see, it mirrors our, the troubleshooting steps that we would do anyway. So, but like I said, it's a number of reasons why your device may be experiencing that. You just want to be able to address it as it happens. Let's see here. No display, dim display. I'm going to do this one too as we finish up. This problem could be a connection to the screen, which goes through the same case hinges. Make sure the computer is powered on. Connect the external monitor or direct video to the display to check it, to see if it's the monitor or not. And we talked about the FN button to see if you toggled that screen off. With a dim display, it can be the inverter going out. We talked about that earlier too with Kelly, the hissing sound. So screen brightness could be actually accidentally turned down. Function key could be turned down. That's also a possibility. The laptop lid button could be obstructed, causing the computer to think that the lid is closed. Flickering. Check the cable, make sure it's not loose. Identify any driver issues, and also make sure the refresh rate isn't too low. Has anybody ever watched TV and turned down the actual brightness on the screen just so you can have something playing but not too bright? So I get it. And you can even set that up as like a user preference type. So you don't have to keep doing it each time. You got it like a setting. User 1, bam, the screen just go all the way back down and you can still hear or see slightly so the room's not too bright. So I totally get why that can be something that somebody else's did and you not know and you thinking that your screen is going out. So any questions on display issues? All right, any other questions before we wrap this up? We hope that with this technical session that we were able to clearly identify common issues that users experience with mobile devices and also describe how likely to resolve those issues. There's a lot of information here that was probably a part of our life that we just did without talking about it, but now we can talk through a lot of ways to address these things. So hopefully, like I said, you tuck in some new information or just confirm the information that you already had. So either way is what we wanted that to be done. I'm gonna stop the recording here. And